So today and yesterday, remember I said that I wanted to talk to you about mermaid mirroring, which is something that I would love to discuss because I think lots of people in the world that practice the law of attraction, or perhaps that you don't know about law of attraction, like you're not quite familiar with it, and you don't necessarily, if you haven't studied it, you don't quite understand how it actually works, you know. And so I wanted to try to bring this down to a basic sense of understanding, because I think that oftentimes people are less inclined to be, get hooked onto something because they don't quite understand it. And so anyway, what I want to do is I want to explain that mermaid mirroring, which is basically you being pushed out. And so when I say that, what I mean is, prime example, that everything in our reality is what we create, right? And so oftentimes people hear that and they're like, oh, that's great and wonderful, especially if you're creating, you have a wonderful life, or you love a lot of things about yourself. You'll happily accept that as, yeah, I created that, or I did this, or I did that, right? And so that's why you are experiencing that particular life. Whereas the same happens because we live in a non-inclusive world, which means that there is never no, right? And I said that on the video yesterday, that you never get the answer no. It's always a yes. So whatever you are experiencing, just as you experience good things, you also experience bad things. If you are resonating and pushing out that particular thing in your life, you're getting that exact thing back, which is mermaid mirroring, which means everything that I perceive about the world, or a particular person, a particular event, if I put my attention onto it, I'm going to get more of that. What you focus on grows, right? And so since the universe always gives you what your thoughts are, right? So if I think that every woman, okay, prime example, when I was going through this really disgruntled, which I didn't even understand, because oftentimes we're going through life, and even though I quite understand the law of attraction quite deeply, we're still human beings. So we're not always so apt to recognize everything so quickly in our lives, right? Because things become habitual. We just gain habits. Sometimes we don't even recognize, through conditioning since we were young little girls, how we adapt our lives to our circumstances, our environment, the way that we were treated when we were young. We learn to become conditioned on expecting particular things. We begin having assumptions about how life is. And when we do that, which there's nothing wrong with that, because we're all humans, this is a fun process, right? Is understanding what happens to us, or how we create our reality. And oftentimes, I've said, there's many times people are like, no, I do not create my reality. I would not cause myself to have cancer. I would not summon my own death or my own murder, or I would not want myself to get raped, you know what I mean? And this is very much you have to be a very confident and powerful creator to recognize that, yes, you do create your reality. Now, oftentimes, I know there's some people, and I'm not going to project that and reflect that out to you, but the people that are not ready to hear this message, that they create their reality, because perhaps they're in still victim mentality, because oftentimes it does feel better to blame someone else for our problems, right? Or the reality that we're living is dreadful and we absolutely do not want it. But we are the ones that create that through our pattern of thought, okay? So like I was saying, let me give you an example, is that when I was experiencing this particular incident, like, it started gradually. That's the thing, is like, you don't realize what your thoughts are until they manifest, and then you're like, shit. Like, oh my god, I totally was doing that, and like, oh, that's not good, you know. And but it always is a teaching mechanism. Like, it's so wonderful that we get this contrast in our lives, because that's how we know what we do want when we get what we don't want, you know what I mean? Like, we have the power to change everything in our lives. So like I was saying, prime example of this is when I was experiencing, and I sort of went on this like downfall of where, after my divorce happened with my ex-ill-suited mate, I began being really super angry with women in religion, in Christianity, because when I was in theology, I had this perception that we were all like lovey-dovey, we cared about each other, we loved each other, and like I would be supported by women, especially in my religions, right? But when I ended up, like, then I gradually was leaving theology, I felt a disconnect, and I wanted to blame it on other women, that like they didn't love me anymore because I'm not a religious person, and they didn't love me anymore because I was like tainted, you know, I was like stained because I was now a divorcee, because I wanted a divorce, I wanted a new life, you know, and I wanted to find my soulmate. Anyway, so I began believing that, and it was a trickle down effect, you know what I say? Like, it, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't start like just very gradual, and nothing ever does. That's why it always stems from the process of long time, like building momentum on a thought. And so I didn't realize this until like a week ago, or it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, that I had gotten fed up, you know. I gotten fed up with feeling like that is not what I wanted. I did not want to be angry anymore at women, or especially because that's a reflection on me being angry with myself, when I'm the one that made all of those choices. It was no one else's decision but my very own, and I was pushing out exactly what I was assuming about women, which was that I had been that way when I remember being in religion, that when I saw women and they were getting a divorce, or they were going away from religion and they wanted to like practice the law of attraction or something like that, I began having this belief about them that I never wanted to be connected with them, because they were like stained, you know, and soiled, that sort of thing. And so that thing about where it stemmed from, I would say that it probably began there, you know, and it also probably stemmed from like my childhood of feeling like I noticed that like in my family, a lot of the women were judged, you know, they judged a lot of people, especially if they were divorcee, you know. And so that is perhaps where it stemmed from. And it doesn't necessarily matter where it stemmed from. What matters is that when you recognize it and you understand where your mermaid mirroring is coming in, then you can change it. You know, it's like it doesn't have to take a long time. It doesn't have to be something that's so dramatic that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I could change my life. Because oftentimes women get, and I'm saying women because I'm a woman, is that we get sort of discouraged, you know, like we feel like everything is being placed on us, that we don't have control. And that is often very much stemmed in a conditioned belief by living in a religious or Christianity or theological home when we're growing up as little girls, you know. I just know from my personal experience that is exactly where mine came from, and I'm assuming that that's why I want to explain things so deeply, because I know how I felt when I felt disconnected and that no other women loved me when this was supposed to be like the most loving place that you could possibly grow up and be raised around, but it actually was the opposite thing for me, and I wanted to understand what happened. And I also want to explain things this way because I feel that it's very much important for women to feel love, to feel and understand what is happening, that no matter what happens and why you've experienced particular things in your life, that it does not matter, that you can change everything in your life. And it doesn't have to be a long drawn out process either. It can be a very simple, quick thing, because once I recognized that, and this was just very recently, you guys, is that I realized that I had the power to change it through creating a new belief. And it wasn't going to take me a long time. I learned to do it very, very rapidly, like reverse engineering how I did everything else in my entire life. Like I remember saying when I got my divorce, I used to always implement affirmations that I was going to come out of it very clean. I was going to not have traumatic experience to where it did me under, you know what I mean, like I wasn't just completely a basket case or anything like that. And I used to and I had a particular affirmation that I would say every day, all day, on a loop, and that's exactly what happened. Like every time I've ever used my power as a mermaid, like my mermaid inner being, I've always come out on top. And it's because we are assuming what the world is, and we get exactly what we assume. So if you assume that Lizzie from Texas is a wretched beast and she's a Christian person, but she's also a hypocrite and a very jealous woman, guess what you're going to find? Not only are you going to find that these particular people start to show up in your life, if you begin thinking that that particular person or all women are like that, you're going to encounter that quite a bit. You're always going to encounter that same type of personality because that's you pushed out. It's the assumption that you have about Lizzie in Texas, right? And so if you believe that, it's going to continually show itself unto you. That is how the universe works. It's spiritual law. So say for instance, you believe and I sort of went into this yesterday on the video about how everything is you pushed out, or it's you mirror reflecting your exact self. Another prime example is when I experienced my divorce, I began really being disgruntled about men, and for some reason, I don't know why, but it didn't affect my relationship with Jeffrey for whatever reason. I don't understand that quite well. Actually, I do understand it. It's because I had the assumption about him that he was different. That is exactly what it was. But when it came to other men, I basically had this assumption about other men that they were not kind, that they disrespected women, that they did not care, they were unfaithful if they were a husband. And so even down to my own siblings, I began thinking and having that assumption about them. So what do you think played out? Exactly that. What you're about to know is they actually revealed themselves exactly the way that I assumed them to be. And so when they would come into my existence, or I would interact with any kind of men or anything like that, they actually showed up exactly the way that I had assumed them to be. It was me pushed out. It was me reflecting back to exactly how I felt about men in general. And so anyway, I don't know if that helped you, but I certainly hope that you will leave me a comment and or like or subscribe to my channel if you feel prompted to. I would love it. Also, if you have any other questions about a video, if you would like me to describe or explain something in more like layman terms. And I say that because I think we need that, especially people that are just learning about the law of attraction. Like, oftentimes it becomes so overwhelming. There's so many books, there's so much knowledge that is out there, which is all wonderful and good, but I wanted to break it down because I didn't quite understand it so easily when I was first learning about it, you know. I didn't understand it when I was trying to attempt to learn about the law of attraction so easily for myself. So I thought, you know, if I felt that way, if I felt that way, I thought, you know what, there's probably other people like me that doesn't quite understand it, and I wanted to understand it in a way that was appealing, or, you know, like, I love putting like that little mermaid aspect of it on there because it makes me happy, for one thing. Oh my God, that was the sweetest experience that I had. Like, those little lads and little darling, I feel like, you know what, it makes me want to cry because I feel like that is my Sawyer. Like, just, I really feel like that is my Sawyer, always sending me beautiful little signs. Like, they came up to me and they're like, are you a YouTuber? Are you a YouTuber? We want to follow your channel. It was just so lovely. Oh, they're so sweet. I really love them. Anyway, so I don't remember where I was going with that, but I believe that I took care of everything when I was speaking about what was going on that video, and I think that I explained it quite well. And anyway, I don't want to like drag out this, you know, so I'm going to go and render this video, and then I hope that you have a lovely, lovely day and that you're excited about it, you know, and I hope that this helped you. I'm sure, and I intend that it did help you, and I hope that you have a lovely day. And as always, I'm most affably yours until my next swim. Toodle pip!